recording. Let's see. Again, for those of you just came on, Shabbat Shalom to you. Those who are watching live by YouTube, Shabbat Shalom to you. I apologize to the group because this is going to be a little bit longer today than normal. I don't know for sure how long, but and I know a lot of you have a lot of things that you want to do, and you know, I'm being facetious. I'm thankful that I am here today to be your instructor, and I'm thankful that we have this opportunity to come and share those things in which the Creator has and will reveal to us as a people. Okay. Hallelujah. Wow. Let me share my screen. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to make a contribution, you know, and of course, you know, stay within the framework of what we're talking about, because sometimes if I get distracted, I might lose my thought, and then all of us will be on some other stuff. So today we're going to be talking about Lech Lecha. That's the name of our Torah portion. It's found in the book of Bereshit, chapter number 12 through chapter number 17. Earlier this week, I was able to spend time with you and talk to you about what it was that the Creator was having Avraham focus on. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And the four things that I had mentioned to you was the YHWH, and the Eth means pointing an arrow. And if you don't remember or recall what the Eth is, the Eth is the, let me see here if I can pull this up right quick. Find a color that works. The Eth is the Aleph and the Tav. Okay. And all this is an arrow. All right. So that's an arrow, and it points to everything that the Creator wants you to focus on. And so there were four things that he wanted us to focus on. He wanted us to focus on Sarai. He wanted us to focus on Lot. Okay. It's not Lot, but Lot. He wanted us to focus on the possessions. Okay. And he also wanted us to focus on the people, which are the souls of people. So those are the things I've covered a little bit about Sarai. So I've already done this one here. And now we have Lot, and we have the possessions, and we have the people, which will be the focus of our study today. And so when it says that Avraham took these individuals, he took them on this journey. And it was because Yah had said this to him. Lech Lecha means walk, you. It's a command. Okay. So this is the command that the Creator gave to Avraham. He told him to walk. That's the command. That's Lech right here. Okay. And Lecha, of course, is the shepherd's staff and the kaf, okay, which is the palm of the hand. And so that means to walk. Okay. But also too, Lech Lecha, Lech is the same word. So you see these things at the same time, like both, this is the command and this is walk you. And this means to or for, because it's a preposition. Okay. So the first word that we have, this lock right here, I'm gonna put it in red or some other color, white. This one right here is saying that I want you to walk. That's the word for walk. Okay. This one right here is a preposition. Okay. Which is to or for, and then the next part is you. So this ka right here is you. So in essence, what the Creator is saying for this Torah portion, okay, this weekly portion, is walk. And then I'm telling you to do this, okay? Lech Lecha. So this is about you. A lot of us think that he's just talking to Avraham, but I have to ask the question, are you the descendant? Are you one of the descendants of Avraham, or do you believe yourself to be? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay.
So if you came through him, you have inheritance rights, and you have inheritance rights to the land. You have inheritance rights to everything that Avraham was given is for the benefit of you. This is what it's all about. It's about you. Okay. So let's get started. Oh, stupid thing. This crazy thing. Let's see here. Resume share. Oh, come on. Why when I have a good thing, something always happens. Something always has to happen, Dr. Uret. Let's get back here. Technology could be your best friend, could also be your worst enemy. All right, so it's about you, right? What we need to understand as a people is that you and I have a responsibility as a human being to know what we should do and how we should do it. I bring in this in particular text out of the book of Micah that tells us what is expected of us. It says, human being, you have already been told what is good, what is told, what is functional, what Yahweh demands of you. You've already been told this. No more than to do mishpat. They say to do justice, but I looked at the Hebrew word in this mishpat, and mishpat means to follow the rulings, live your life according to the rules. And the rules are love, grace. I want you to love grace. I want you to be open-minded. I want you to be a certain type of people, but also too, I want you to walk in humility. And that word right there has to do with our Torah portion. It's about walking, okay? But it's how we walk that Yah is concerned with. All of us do walk. We walk in certain ways. There's a physical walk, and there is definitely I don't want to use that word spiritual, but there is a physical, and then there is a, well, I would call it not a spiritual walk. I call it a soul walk. Okay. Because these go both together. The physical and the soul, they're connected. You can't disconnect one from the other. Like the Christians tell you that you're dead, but you're still alive. All this kind of stuff, that doesn't make sense. Okay. So when a person dies, their body goes to the ground, their soul goes back to the creator. Okay. So we're connected. And the creator has us to understand that the way that we walk with him is very important. And because of that, Yah has shown us through this Torah portion, Lech Lecha, about this man, our father called Avraham. Okay. Avraham, he took his wife with him when he was asked to go on his journey. He took what you would call his nephew, Lot. He took possessions with him. Okay. But he also took souls. Those are the four things that I had mentioned to you earlier this week. So I want to get into a conversation about Lot. He's very important because the arrows are pointing to these individuals. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to teach. I'm here to tell you what Yah is going to tell us about these individuals and how they handle things. That's why it was Eth Sarai, because she's somebody that you and I need to focus on. It was Eth Lot, and it's going to be Eth, which is the arrow pointing to the possessions, which are called the Rakush. Okay. So Rakush, and then the other one is the F Nafesh, which is the souls. These are the areas. These are the four things that he wants us to focus on. So out of the Torah portion this week, Yah is going to show us why I'm pointing to Lot. Okay. And he's using Avraham to show us what happened. Okay. So with Lot, Avraham went up from Mitzrayim, and he, his wife, and everything he had, and Lot, and with him into Negev, right? He went into the south, and Avraham became wealthy with much cattle, silver, and gold. Okay. The place of Mitzrayim, somebody tell me, what does Mitzrayim mean if you know?
Land of bondage, captivity.
Bondage? Yeah.
Yes.
It's bondage, but also has this ideal distress, okay, which causes stress. And you also understand that in that place, it's a pressure. You always have to remember that this is what it is, because the root of this word zar here has to do with pressure, stress, and distress, which eventually brings the idea of what you would call conflict. Okay. Yahweh brought Avraham into Mizraim, and somebody tell me right quickly why, from what you read in your Torah portion. Why did he bring him there?
Famine?
There was famine in the land, so there was no sustainability, right? So he puts him in the place in order to sustain him. I want you to get this idea of sustainability, in which sustainability has to do with survival, okay? So the idea of sustainability, even though he became wealthy when he went to this place, okay? But he had things with him before he went, but then he went up from Mitzrayim, him and his wife and everything. And when he was there, they took his wife, you know, and he had to deal with that conflict as well. But when he got there, he became even more wealthier than what he did before he went in, okay? And that's an idea that Yah wants to do. He wants to sustain him, okay? So this is the reason why he brought him there, is because of the famine, and also to increase his wealth. The sustainability is a big issue in our Torah portion. It says Lot, who was traveling with Avram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, okay? Our father Avraham had more than flocks, herds, and tents, okay? These flocks and herds are really, they're a decent amount, but they're not exactly what Avraham had. Avraham was increased beyond Lot, even though that was his nephew, okay? So Lot had some stuff. He had a great deal of flocks and herds, but it didn't mention anything about the gold, the silver, and all the other things like the donkeys and the oxen and all these sorts of things that were given to Avraham because of the beauty of his wife. And so the land could not support their living together because of their possessions, which were too great for them to remain together, okay? Moreover, quarreling arose between Avram's and Lot's herdsmen, their shepherds. And not only that, but the Ka'anini, which are the people of the land of Canaan, were living there, and the Perizi were living in the land at that time. So it was a great deal of problems. And what we can pull from this is that one may be increased with wealth, okay, but with wealth, there comes a problem of sustainability. And we think that wealth by itself will sustain us, but there's circumstances that sometimes won't allow you to do that. And also too, when there's a great amount of wealth that's involved, there tends to be some quarreling, which is some arguments, okay, which we're going to get into right quick. All right, so there's this arguing and this quarreling that arose between Avram's and Lot's herdsmen, and that's simply because of the amount of wealth that they had on the land that they were on, okay? So this has to do with the land, okay? So this contention, which is recognized in the Hebrew as this word riv, which would be a resh, a yod, and a bet, okay? Called riv. If it's written in English, it would be rib, okay? But the pronunciation is riv, okay? That's pronunciation, even though it's written this way, all right? So a riv is a reeve is a argument, and it's a quarrel between people. And so what we're going to find is we want to understand what was the character of our father. Previously, when I taught about Avraham, we talked about his hospitality and his nobility. Well, I wanted to dig a little bit more deeper on this one because the Creator has shown me some different things about Avram that you and I need to know because we're his children. That word reeve has to do with contention, okay? It has to do with conflict. That is which arose is conflict. All through your Torah portion, you're going to find out about contention. You're going to find out about conflict. You're going to find out that there was a conflict between and contention between Lot and Avram. There was contention between Sarai and Hagar. There was contention between Pharaoh and Avraham. There was contention between 5 kings against 4 kings in chapter number 14. There was conflict. So conflict is a big part of our Torah portion of Lech Lecha, okay? You spell a couple of different ways. And so as we're understanding this is that Yah is letting us know that in our walk and how we live our lives, okay, in the journey that you and I are on, expect conflict and expect contention. But Yah wants to develop in us the character of our Father. You have a choice today to look at the way that people responded to this contention and this conflict and find out which personality that you would like to ascribe to, or who you want to follow, or what was the results of those things. Okay. So I need to tell you about the roots of this word. Okay. Because it has to do with this, the idea. So contention has to do with the idea of who the master is. Okay. So in Hebrew, because you always got to give you a Hebrew lesson, you got a resh, which is the letter resh, and I'll write it right here. And then you got the letter bet. That's the parent root. Okay. So remember, our word for contention is rib. So there's a yod right there. All right. So we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about where does this word, where does the parent come from? Who's the parent of the word riv? Because the parent is Rav and the child is riv. The parent is a 2-letter root. The child is 3-letter root. Okay. That's how you know who the parent is and who the child is. So here it is. The parent of this in particular root is Rav. And Rav is a master. So when we understand contention and we're understanding conflict, it's really a battle of who wants or who is the master. Okay. You get your idea from Rabbah, meaning many. Like Torah Rabbah, that means many, and it means abundance. And that's in our understanding of this. Okay. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. There has to do with an abundance. You get your Hebrew word, not Jewish word, from the Hebrew language, rabbi. Okay. A rabbi is a master of one's home. Okay. And agriculturally, when we look at the resh, it represents a head. That's what the rosh, or the letter resh, is. Okay. And then we have a bet, right? Because resh is the name of the letter, but the name of a head is called a rosh. Same letters are a resh and a shin. A resh and a shin. They just pronounce this one resh and they pronounce this one rosh. So rosh is the head. So we know that the resh has to do with the head. All right. So the head, and what is the bet? Somebody tell me.
Dwelling.
Yes, is the head of the dwelling or the tent or the home. Okay. So there's only going to be one master. All right. Now let's take it to the highest level that we can. You and I only have one master. And it says in the book of Psalms that Moshe said that Yahweh has always been our dwelling place. There's only one master for us. You can't have two masters. Okay. One of the famous things that the New Testament said, you can't serve two masters. So they tell you to abandon the creator and serve the master Yeshua. Okay. So we're not doing that. There's only one master. There can only be one ruler over the house. Okay. And over the dwelling. And this is what Avraham understood. Okay. Because there was contention. And because of this, it was a matter of finding out who's the master. Who's the one who's going to rule? Okay. Who's going to do the rulership? We see this in households today. You know, it's always a matter of who the ruler is. You know, do you get to rule the house because you make the most money? Do you get to rule the house because you're the smartest one? How does it happen? And what's the order? Well, according to the order of the creator, the man is the master. He's the Rav. And the reason why he's the Rav is not simply because he's just physically strong. It's because he's supposed to be a certain way. Okay. He's supposed to have a sense of strength and abundance in other areas, which I'm going to share with you right quick. Okay. So the rules, let's go to the rules, because he rules, the master rules. So let's look at the rules. So what does he rule? The master rules cases, he rules trials, he rules conflicts, and everything, and even contests inside of the home. There's always going to be issues in our homes. There's always going to be issues and trials that you go through. And there's always going to be conflict. Conflict is going to be part of the life and it's part of our walk. Okay. But there has to be someone there to rule this. There can't be two different ideas, right? So the people that are living in the dwelling place have to follow what the master of the house has said. And the master of the house has a great responsibility. It's not easy, which we're going to find out through in our Torah portion. This master, this ruler, has to be one who has abundance. And it's not just in wealth, the abundance that this in particular master who takes on this role that's been given to them by the creator, okay, and has been appointed as the ruler, has to be, who has to have abundance and authority, okay? It's an abundance. That's what Rabbah means. It means to be many. It means to be abundant. They have to have so much authority that it can never be thwarted. It can never be outweighed. They're very weighty in everything that they say. And the words that they say, they have to be strong and they have to be heavy, and everyone has to recognize that. And so in Lot and Avraham's situation, there was this contention between their shepherds, but ultimately it was a contention between the ones who were their masters. So even though there's contention between other individuals, right, in the dwelling or the house or the field, there's always somebody that they have to go to. So what it was is two masters. Okay, even though one was the uncle and one was the nephew, the uncle did not usurp authority over the nephew and say, well, I'm the oldest, I'm your uncle, you listen to me, kind of like what Laban did to Yaakov. That wasn't this situation, okay? Our father was different. He didn't try to pull that move like Laban did on our father Yaakov. So this abundance, he has to be abundance in strength, mental clarity, mental acumen, strength. He has to have ideas. He has to be able to solve problems, okay? And the numbers that we're talking about is an abundance in numbers, meaning this individual has to be about increase. They have to understand that in order for us to sustain ourselves, because we're talking about sustainability, one has to increase their numbers, and that increase of numbers has to do with not only cattle, but it has to do with their children. It's about building, okay? So this is the role and the responsibility of the master. Okay, they have to be able to possess these things. There's just a few of them. Also, too, there will be strife, but in the strife, the master, the one who's great of authority, the one who's abundant in strength and knowledge and wisdom, the one who rules, also has to strive. And this is what a lot of people don't get and they don't understand. Okay, and the reason why they don't understand is because as a people, we've never been taught how to strive. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to teach you how to strive. And I'm not just talking about the men, I'm talking about every last one of us, because even in our Torah portion, listen to me, who else was a master? Tell me, Rivka, because I know you know. Who was a master?
The master? What do you mean? Besides
Avraham. Yeah,
Sarah.
there you go. She was a master, and they called her a mistress. Okay, so it's not only a male master, okay, there's a female master, which they call a mistress. It's not the one that you and I would, have a side chick, okay? This one here means a queen. She's the lady, okay? So ladies, understand that you're a lady, you have to act like a lady, and you should have some of the qualities of a female master, a mistress, a queen, and you are the one who has to rule too, and you're supposed to be abundant in your strength and in your authority. So now you kind of see a different order, but even while she was the mistress of someone else, her master, which is her husband, her Lord, her Adon, was her husband, and he was there to rule. Okay, so we're going to see some different things in which you've read about how he ruled, right? And then you're going to see how she ruled. All right. So, that's awesome, Rivka. Thank you for that. And let's just quickly deal with Sarai's name. Okay. S-A-R-I, Sarai, and it means my princess. Okay. That's what she is, my princess. Okay. That's what her name meant. My possessive, my princess. So we can see why Avraham was reluctant to tell these people that was his wife, because they would kill him. So, but what's the root of her name? Well, we see a resh in there again, right? And so what's a resh? What part of your body? Your head. Okay. This sin right here, the shin right here is called sarai, not sharai. This means to turn, and it means away, to turn away, because it has to do with a thorn bush. okay? And you turn away from a thorn bush, okay? So the action of it is to turn, all right? To turn away or turn away from, but also means that she turns what?
Heads.
She turns heads. Why does she turn heads, Akoti?
Because of her beauty.
She was beauty. She was beautiful. She was a beautiful woman. She's a beauty. Yes. And her beauty, and this is for you beautiful sisters out here, understand that her beauty was to turn heads, but also too, is not just to turn heads, because what's in your head? Your mind. And what's your mind in Hebrew? It's your heart. Okay. And this is the reason why Yah has chosen her, is because she had the ability to turn people's heads, to turn their minds, to change their mind. Okay, because Sar means to turn. So if you look at our name as a people, is Yisrael. Where's my L? Okay, Yisrael. Okay, so Yisrael, here's Sar right here. So what are you and I supposed to do ultimately?
Turn the heads and the minds.
Turn the heads and the minds to who? Because El is who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The El, he's the power. Okay, so let me clean all this up so I can get a clear picture, because I've already taught this. Let's go ahead and clear all this up for us. Just do it real quick. If you look at Yisrael, this means he. Sar is head, to turn the head, and then El means Elohim. Okay, so Elohim turns the head of him, because that could be him or he. Okay, or he turns the head to Elohim. Israel's job is to turn people's head. Okay, the word Sar also means, if it means princess, my princess, it also means the prince. Yisrael is a prince to Yahweh. Yisrael is the one who's supposed to turn the people's head to Yah. You understand? So this, and guess what? To be a prince means that you're royal. That means that you have a higher calling on your life. But you can't do that unless you have a master, unless you're willing to go to the one who rules, the one who's full of abundance, and the one which the Creator himself is doing right now. He's been striving with us, okay? So let me bring this out again right here, because I told you I didn't get to strive, but let's go here right quick. So the idea of the master is to strive, right? So we see this. What is he striving for? What is the person who's the head of anything? What is their job? The head of the family, the head of another person, the head of an organization, the head of a company, the head of an organization. Your primary responsibility is to strive for the survival and the protection of that in which you've been placed over. Okay, so looking at it from a husband's perspective and from a father's perspective, I say that my job is to strive, but I'm learning on how to strive now. Before I didn't know how to strive. I only strove the way that I was taught by television, or way I thought, or way my family taught me. I didn't understand why I should strive and how to do it. Okay, I had a natural inkling about what it was, but I really didn't fully understand it. So the master is in the position for the survival and the protection of the family, or of the organization, or of the business. That's our job. That's our responsibility. So being a master is not easy. So today I'm going to teach you on how we should do that. And we find that in this word nah, okay? This word nah, like nah, I don't want to do it. Nah. It doesn't mean no. It means actually please, okay? So Avraham said to his nephew Lot, please, meaning nah, let's not have quarreling. Let's don't do a reeve between me and you, or between my herdsmen and yours. Since we're family, we're kinsmen. And he says in here, kinsmen means brothers. We're brothers. Isn't the whole land there in front of you? Nah, separate yourself from me. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. What can we find out about this? We find that our father was a very reasonable man. Remember, your name is your character. He's a very reasonable man. He was a very special man. He was a very kind man. He was a man who understood things. Okay. And what it was is that he said, you and I are brothers. There should not be any contention between you and I because we're brothers. That's number one. You and I can learn from this. There shouldn't be any contention between a husband and a wife. There should not be any contention between a father and his son. There should not be any contention between a father and his daughter. Why? Because contention brings a lot of problems. It becomes very, very frustrating. It becomes very stressful. It becomes very difficult. Okay. So there shouldn't be any contention. All right. So our father is responding in a way that shows us that, he's different. So you and I have to understand that even like he talked about, hey, not separate, please separate yourself. Separation in times of conflict and contention is not bad. The Psalms tell us, when you're angry, go lay down and calm down. Sometimes if you're in a marital situation and you're angry and you guys can't get along right now, it's good to take a break from each other. You should separate. You really should. I would recommend it. You should separate. And I'm not talking about going to the courts and putting in a file of separation. I'm not talking about getting them involved in your business. What I'm saying is you should find somewhere else to go. And if it's the man, you should go. If it's a woman, she should go. But at least if you can have cool off and you can have your head, you can think. Often we don't give that space and because we lack respect and we're not trying to do what the Creator's asking us to do. Sometimes it's good for us to put that separation in that space right there. And we're going to see this, and we have seen this in the examples of Sarai and Hagar, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Separation is a good thing. So you can see the willingness of our father saying, hey, look, if you go to the right, I'll go to the left. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right, right? The New Testament kind of took this and tried to run with it and say, oh, walk with somebody. If they want to go 2 miles, you go, want to go 1 mile, you go with them too. I don't agree with that. And he says, go with your enemy. See, and that's weird and that's different. It doesn't make sense. And it doesn't sit well with us when we have to walk with your enemy, the one who's against you. You're going to walk with them 1 mile and they want to even go 2 miles with them. No, that's not what we do. What it is here is we're trying to avoid conflict. The roots of this word is this. It's called parad, means to separate and to make a division. Okay. That's the word for the Hebrew word for separate. So he's asking him to, hey, you know what? Let's make a division between ourselves, between me and you, and between your people and my people, between your servants and my servants, between everything you're the master over and everything I'm the master over, all your cattle and all these things, because what it is that it's becoming unsustainable. Okay. And that can not only happen with herds and people, but it can also happen in situations in your life. Some things are, they're untenable and it takes time and you need to make that division in order to get yourself in a position where you get rid of the stress and then you can develop a plan. Also, too, what we understand from this word of separate and divide, what are you dividing? And what we find here is that primarily what was being divided and what was being separate, and the Most High has done this, because he's the one who increased Avram's wealth. He's the one who increased everything, right? And so now that Avraham is super, super wealthy, super, abundant full of things, even servants and so forth, he has to make a move. And Yah has done this on purpose. I hope you can see this in your Torah portion, because after Yah separated them, he divided them. What the Creator was doing was dividing the seeds, which is zerah. That's where this word comes from, is to divide a seed. To separate something means to separate it from an agricultural perspective, because that's part of our culture, is to make a separation of seed. Just like you have in your Torah portion, it tells us that you and I should not mix seeds together, correct? So look at here. I'm going to show you something. So the seed is what seed? It's the seed of Lot, or Lot, the proper pronunciation. The Creator was interested in separating Lot from Avraham, because Yah's intention was never to give Lot any of the inheritance that he promised. Could you please put your device on mute, please? He never wanted to separate or keep Lot with Avraham. That was never the intention. Yah did not give that command, the lech lecha, to Lot. Lot went along with Avraham because he was willing to go with him, right? He could have went on his own way, but he decided to come with him. But even though people are with you, doesn't mean they're always going to stay with you. Because if Yah has a plan for you, sometimes you're going to have to be separated. When he says separate yourself from your father's household, he literally meant that. Yah caused this separation, and he did it through the famine, so he can go down to Mizraim, so he can divide this family. Now, you know, if you've been in my Torah classes, that Ammon and Moab are what they would call the enemies of Yaakov. They're the enemies. These two families right here are enemies of this family, even though they're related. Their father wasn't an enemy per se, but he did have contention. He had contention with Avraham. You see, there was contention, there was conflict. And also, too, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I believe there was some jealousy there. Because the way that it describes Lot's wealth compared to Abraham's wealth, it could have been frustrating, like, man, how did you come up? You know, Sarah goes in there and all of a sudden you get increased with all these servants and all this gold and silver and all this. Lot didn't get any of that. So it was just, you know, business as usual. So we see Yah is already blessing Avraham in a way that proves that Yahweh is with him. And the Most High divided them from each other. He didn't want them next to each other. Okay. So you and I should understand that the Creator himself sometimes will separate you from your family, because maybe I don't want your uncle, you know, and that's kind of hard for us. Maybe I don't want your mom, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I don't want your dad, you know. For us to make that decision is not right. We have to leave things in the hand of the Creator if we understand how he works. That's why he's given us the narrative of Avraham, right? So again, I will make reference again that this is not the Torah, okay? This is the development of a people, all right? So the next thing we're going to talk about quickly is about the diplomacy. Our father was very diplomatic. He used diplomacy in this situation with his nephew, his family member. And not only did he use diplomacy with him, but also as well with his wife and others. So diplomacy is a big part of how you and I should develop our character. Okay, our character as the sons and the daughters and the descendants and the seed of Avraham, in which you can see the Creator has divided us from other peoples. Okay, he's divided us from other families because I have intentions and plans for you. And because I have these intentions and plans for you, and I want you to lech lekah, I want to give something to you. Okay, and what I say by giving it to you, I'm using the actual word. I'm using the lamed, which I want a different color. I'm giving to means the lamed, and the ka means to you. To you. This is laka, or you see, to you. I'm putting a staff to you. I have intention. I need you to be a certain way. This is not only to you, but the lamed can mean for you. I'm not only giving stuff to you, but I'm doing stuff for you. And because you're part of that family, okay, you're going to have to understand how to deal with circumstances and situations. One of the things that God wants us to understand, that you and I have to be more diplomatic, like our Father, in dealing with contention. It's an art. It's literally an art form. It takes practice. It's not easy. I'm dealing with it myself. It's learning how to deal with people in a very sensitive and effective way. If you and I can learn this art form, just like you would learn how to draw, you learn how to ride a bike or whatever, it takes time, and it takes something that you have to be consistent at. It's not an overnight deal, especially coming out of the ways of the heathen that you and I have been taught. So it's an art form, okay? And so with this art, you know, it would develop some other traits about us. Number one, if you and I would learn this art, you and I would become more aware. We'd have an awareness. Okay, an awareness about our situation and which you're in. If you know the art, you'll understand. Avraham was aware of the personality of his nephew, Lot. He was very aware of his situation. He was very cognitive of what was going on. Okay. Just like when he went down and he said, hey, before they went into Mizraim, he was caused to go there. So Yah caused him to go there. So he didn't just take his hands off and say, well, Yah sending me down here, so I don't have to do nothing. I'm walking by faith and not by works. You understand what I'm saying? He said to himself, to his wife, he commanded her, he said, listen, we're coming up upon something right now that I can get killed and they'll take you. And this won't be good for you and it won't be good for me. You understand? So he had an awareness of the personality of the people of Mizraim. He had an awareness of the personality of the shepherds of Lot. He also understood the problems. He understood, he had an awareness of the situation. Going back to us being diplomatic and going back to us being the masters, going back to us with this idea of being abundant in strength and wisdom and knowledge, you and I have to have a sense of awareness. You have to be very acute to what's going on around you and to understand the problems. Because if you don't understand the problem and you don't understand the people and you don't understand the potential of what can happen, you'll be in a very bad situation. So what we're being taught here, hallelujah, Anzanya, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Did it seem to you like Abraham was like still getting to know the Most High? Like he lied because he was scared that they were going to kill him because his wife was so beautiful. It was like he still didn't have that great trust in Yah that we would see later with Isaac. It's like Pharaoh had more trust in Yah. It was like Pharaoh was like, you didn't tell me who you were. Suppose I had taken her. And can you imagine what would have happened to me? For your power is so terrible. It seemed like for a moment, like Pharaoh, I don't know. I don't want to say anything like, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm stumbling over words, but it just seemed to me like still it was like I feel Abraham. I feel like he was new in his walk with the Most High and he was still getting to know him. And, I don't know. It just seems so very real. That's all I'm saying.
It is real. And that's
Yeah.
points, but in all fairness, let's keep it vanilla. Abraham did not lie. He did not lie. He did say that it was his sister. We'll find that out later on in our Torah portion next week, that he is related to her in that way. And so he did not lie, but what he was doing, as you stated, he was afraid. And one of the reasons why he was afraid is simply because the word that they give for afraid is called a gar, okay, or a ger. And a gar or a ger is what they would call a stranger, okay. And when a stranger, when they go into a new place that they've never been, they automatically get afraid because they're unfamiliar with the environment. Okay, they're unfamiliar, but he had a fear about him because he understood the personality. He knew what was going on. He was very acute to it. He was already up on it before he even got there. He didn't go in there blind. That was my point. And you're right. His walk with Yah was fresh. It was new. And as the Christians would say, that he had all the faith in the world, but if you read the Torah portion, you see all the times where he continued to ask questions. Asking questions doesn't mean necessarily that was a bad thing. It didn't, but it doesn't mean that he had this, this unattainable faith and he was the father, the faithful. No, he was always asking questions. It wasn't that he was just doubting the creator, but he had questions. And we can learn from that to say, sometimes it's okay to ask Yah questions. Matter of fact, the creator loves for us to ask questions. He continued to walk with him. He would ask, well, how will I know that you're going to do this? He laughed when he told him I was going to give you a child through Sarah. He's like, hey, how am I to know? Well, I don't have anybody. I'm childless. I've been going around childless. So the point is that this awareness, going back to the point, is that the awareness that he has, that you and I should have, is we have to become aware of personalities. We have to become aware of problems and situations, and also too what the potential could be, what's potentially can happen through a circumstance or a situation. And you got to look at those things that can present themselves as threats. Okay. And it's how you do these things. Okay. He didn't panic. Okay, that's not awareness, is not panic. So if you notice that he dealt with his nephew in a way that was really, really gentle, he really did. It was very reasonable. Is very, I would say, I'm looking for the right word, where he was. What is the word that he used?
Diplomatic.
Yes, he was okay. He had the spirit, which I would give to us today, in this idea of let's work together and let's a spirit of cooperation. Let's cooperate together. You know, let's find. He was solution based. He was looking for a solution. He didn't argue back. He came up with a solution. He took the first step. Do you understand? So that's something we could take away from this. He also exercised what one would say would be empathy. He didn't just sympathize. He understood. He understood what it was. He had the ability to do that. And to understand means, from a Hebraic perspective, that he had to understand that, look, I have to build, and I want to continue to build a relationship. I want to maintain a good relationship with my nephew. I know that he has to go, and that's painful, but I understand that we got to build a relationship. That's what understand means. This means to build, like to build a family. So his idea was, let me continue to maintain a good relationship with him, and for us to be able to cross that bridge again, right? And we see in our Torah portion, he was able to do that. And also too, empathy is the idea of, share the feelings of another, like a lot of you have done this last week, is by empathizing with our situation, by the loss of our loved one, and I'm so thankful to you. I say that you guys are my family. You've done those things to me that are representative of someone who understands the situation and awareness, and you shared in that with me. And I thank you for that. And so does my wife. We also see to that also our father, even though he had this diplomacy about him, there's a time when you don't show any diplomacy. And it depends on who you're talking about, which would go against what the New Testament talks about. In our chapter number 14, we found out there was a war, and our father, our Avinu Avraham, he wasn't sitting around trying to figure out how to be diplomatic here. Let's talk about what he did. So the victors took all the possessions, okay? And what I mean by took is, if you notice in the Torah portion, this word take was used a lot. Sarah was taken. Yah told them to take, take this with you, take these people with you. You found that here in chapter number 14, something was taken. You find that in chapter 15, Yah says, take, quack, take these offerings and bring them to me. Take was used. So it's an idea, but also too, the word to give was in it as well. So this Torah portion also has this idea of a give and take. So in our walk, in our journey, there's going to be this exchange. There's always going to be this give and take. Okay. So these victors, which are the enemies, these kings who have came down and fought against these people, took the possession of the Sodom and Gomorrah. And at this time, Lot was living among them, and they took their food supply and they left. They lakah. That word lakah is right there, and they left. They lakah. And as they, which is not lakah, it's laku. They laku. They left. And as they left, as they laku, they took Lot. Just like remember I told you from the Torah portion when we began our journey this week, I said there's going to be 4 things that are going to be the eth the Sarai, okay? Eth Lot. The arrow is pointing to Lot. What's going to be taken? And eth what? Was she taken? Yes, she was. Was he taken? Yes, he was. And guess what else was taken? The Rakush. That was taken. The F Rakush. That was taken. Rakush's possessions. The possessions are everything that they've accumulated over their lifetime. Everything they worked hard for, everything that they labored for, everything they made exchange for, everything that they dealt with and traded was all taken away from them. All their possession was taken away from them. And it clearly states here that Avram's brother's son and his possessions, his Rakusho, was taken since he was living in Sodom at that time, because Avraham had the discussion, and Avraham said, you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. And as soon as he leaves, Yahweh told him, hey, now I can talk to you and I can tell you what I'm going to give you. And what I need you to do is I need you to look because I have something that I want to give to you. So possessions were being taken away. All right. And these possessions, why these possessions? This is the idea behind the Torah portion. Why is possession mentioned and why is it pointing to the eth rakush? The arrow to rakush, the possession was this, is that these possessions was their life's work. It was everything. We can understand through possessions, through our Torah portion, that the king of the universe gave Avraham a great deal of possessions through the cattle, through the herds, through the gold, through the silver, through the souls. So possessions is not a bad thing, everyone. Possessions are actually a good thing. It's one's life work. The Most High himself has possessions. And guess what? You and I are his number one possession. You are Yahweh's Rekush. You understand? Yah says that these people came in, these enemies that the New Testament tells you to love and walk with them. Our father didn't walk with them. He went to war. So someone who escaped came and they told Avraham the Hebrew. Okay, this is the first time the word Hebrew is ever mentioned in the scroll. Okay, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Imri. Okay, so now we see that Avraham was living among those people whom Yah says, I'm going to have you destroy these people. I'm going to give you these people's land. Okay, Mamre is the name of the person. Okay, Mamre is not the name of the oak. The oak trees belong to Mamre. These are his trees and his land. He's an Emorite. Okay, and his brother Eshcol, he's an Emorite, and the brother of Adner, they're all brothers. So these are these three brothers who are in a contract and an alliance. They're in an alliance with Avram. Their word ally right there is covenant. They have an agreement with him. So you see that our father had an agreement with them. And the agreement that he had is like, hey, if anything ever goes down, you guys are going to be with me and I will be with you, right? But this word Hebrew is the first time ever is mentioned. It's called the Ivri, okay? And let me break it down for you before we go ahead and read this part right here. What we understand about the word Hebrew is that it's an English word, okay? It's English. It's not Hebrew. The actual Ivri word is here, Ivri, okay? They called him the Ivri, okay? So this is a definite article. And in Hebrew, it would be, here's in English, Ha Ivri. That's what they called him, a Ha Ivri, okay? I'm going to write it down here, Ha, and then Ivri. Bet, a resh, and a yod. That's what it is, a Ha Ivri, okay? So let me break this English word down for you so you can see how they came up with Hebrew, okay? So let's break it all down together. Those who've been in my class, you'll see, or those who haven't been in my class, you'll be like, okay, I'm going to come to the class because he knows what he's talking about. The first letter here in English is a H. In the Hebrew, it is the Ha. This letter. Let me put it in white so it can look better, so you can really see it. That's why they came with the letter H, and it means the or the. Okay. The next letter is this E right here. But in English, in Hebrew, there is no E. Okay. There isn't. But what they use in place of that is an ayin, which is this next letter right here. Okay. That's where this one comes from. Okay. I'm going to color code just for our sake. The next one is a bet, a B. So here it is, a B. Okay. The next one is a what? A R, right? But in Hebrew, it'd be a resh. Okay. And then they got a vowel in there, the E again, right? Which is really an I in Hebrew because they use them interchangeably, which would be this letter right here. Okay. And then the U right here, I don't know where they came with that, but anyway, here it is, Ha Ivri. So what they did is they've transliterated the letters from English or from Hebrew to English. So that's how you get the word Hebrew. So when people ask you, who are you and what you are, if you want to be correct in what you say, you would not say that I'm a Hebrew. You would not say that. That's an English rendition of who you are, which is not accurate because that doesn't tell you exactly who you are. Who you really are is an Ivri. That's what you are. You're Ivri, okay? And here I want you to say it. You're a Ha-Ibri. That's what you are. You're a Ha-Ibri. All right? That's what you are. You're not a Hebrew. You're a Ha-Ibri. And they'll ask you, well, you tell them in English, it would be Hebrew. But I'm really Ivri. And so an Ivri, which we're going to get into a second, is one who comes from beyond. Okay? So when Avraham had heard that his nephew had been taken, right? When he heard this captive, right? He led out his trained men who had been born in his house, 318 of them. Okay. And they went in pursuit. So there wasn't no conversation here with anyone except for the Most High. And I'm going to prove that in just a moment. So he had a conversation with the Most High, and the men that he had was 318, and they were trained. And not only were they trained, they were experienced. Okay. So when we talk about training and experience from this Torah portion, what I want you to understand is this, because we're talking about conflict. Anytime there's a conflict, our father was not what they would call unprepared. Okay. When I was in the military, they told me something. I was part of a group that they said, you know, it's called S&T Troop back in Germany. And they would tell us, people say, you know, he told us never to say that you're ready. No one is ever truly ready for anything. You're never ready for death. You're not ready for accident. You're not ready for contention. You're not ready. I don't want you to be ready for nothing. What I want you to be is what? Somebody tell me. What should we be?
Prepared.
You need to be prepared. Avraham, our father, your father, was prepared. And during the time of the downtime, he wasn't sitting around just playing Uno. He was training. He had his soul, he had his people who lived in his household trained. He understood what it was. Again, you can see this sense of awareness. Okay. To be a good leader, to be a good master, one has to be prepared and one has to be aware about what's going on. That's what you and I should take from this. These 318 trained servants is not here just so you and I can say he had a band of people ready to fight and they killed a whole bunch of people. No, you got to look at what it means. He was prepared. You understand? So during your walk with Yah and Lech Lecha, he's advising you and I to be prepared. Okay. And as an Ivri, that's another idea that you need to embrace. As an Ivri, you need to be prepared. And guess what you're doing right now? You are preparing yourself by what? By study. You may not have 318 servants, but guess what? You are being prepared for what is coming. Okay. Again, Ivri has this idea of, I guess in the English, they got this, our father from Avraham, his name is Eber, which is really Ibri. Okay. Depends on how you spell it. Eber, E-B-E-R. Okay. He comes from that line. I didn't put the map on here or the genealogical table, but we're from that family. And what it means is, sorry for all the clearing out things, is an ayin right here, a bet right here, a resh. That's the root. Okay. That's the child root. Okay. This right here is adopted, but to say the least, this means to cross over. Okay. It means to go beyond from one side to the next, but also too, it has this idea because you're crossing over from one land to another, because that's what Avraham did, but it also means to be on the opposite side. So my idea that I was sharing with you about it being a Hebrew or Ivri, a high Ivri, is one who's always on the opposite side of everything else. Everyone else is going down another path. You decide I'm going to be on the opposite side of that. The wicked say I'm going to do this. You say I'm on the opposite of that. They say that we're going to do this. You say I'm the opposite of that. They say Christmas is coming up and they're going out shopping. I'm the opposite. That's a Ha'ivri. To go, and you're the one who's from beyond. Okay. And we can, spiritualize it if we want to, but I'm keeping everything on earth. Okay. You and I are the ones who are supposed to cross over to the other side. When he asked him to leave his family's house, he was asking him to cross over. And I ain't talking about a basketball crossover, which you can see the results of that. Got some nice ones out there, but it is for you to move to the other side. Okay. So it's the opposite side of that which is wrong. Our father was on the opposite side of that which was wrong. He wasn't joined up with the kings around him. He stayed by himself. And when he needed to do what he needed to do, he was ready and he was prepared, and he didn't have to go around and ask anybody for any help. He actually went and defeated all 5 kings and their people with 318 people and himself. See? Because of his awareness and because who he is. Now we're going to deal with this F Nefesh. Now we're dealing with the souls. So after they went to go get Avraham, our father, and he was prepared for that day, he recovered all the goods, all the rekush, okay, all the goods and possessions, and he brought back his nephew Lot with his goods. He brought everything back. So when we, earlier in our study, and I told you, I said, you need to focus on that F Nefesh. That's the reason why the Creator wanted you to know about Nefesh, because he was going to use Avraham to what? I'm going to bring back everything to you. I'm going to use you to bring back Lot. I'm going to use you to bring back his Rakush. I'm going to use you to bring back the souls. Okay. So you and I can see that the first savior of a family, because that's what he was, Avraham was a savior. He was a savior to people. He was a savior to his family. And not only did he save them, but he brought back everything in their life's work and everything that they put their hands to. Okay. And that's a wonderful thing. And so after his return, our father, he returned from slaughtering people. I need you to grasp that. And I need you to understand that. He's a man who decided that I have to be prepared because I know what's coming. And so therefore he had to kill a whole bunch of people. There's no, you don't ever hear about this in the New Testament. They don't tell you about this. Okay. So you and I need to get an understanding about how many people he killed. He slaughtered people, him and the people that were trained by him. Okay. They slaughtered these people. They slaughtered the kings, and there were 5 of them, and they slaughtered all of them. And after they did that, they went and they sat down and they brought all the goods to the people who were taken from. And guess what? A lot of the people from the 4 kings who were, fighting against the 5 kings, those kings were destroyed. And that was not because the other kings won, it's because Avraham did this. Avraham is the one who did this for the people. Okay. Along this war that he was in, and again, we're talking about the character of our father. So you see that he was a savior. You see that he saved everyone, including their goods. We also see this idea of a king coming. Okay. When he returned from killing everyone and slaughtering these kings, and he came from returning the souls, he was met by what they would call Malki Zedek. I mentioned my king as my director to tell you what we're going to talk about. This Yod right here is my possessive, and Malak is king. Okay. That's where you get my king. So my king is Zedek. My king is righteous. Okay. Here was a king that came and met Avraham. And he was a king from this place called Shalem. Okay. And Shalem was one of the names of Yerushalayim before it came Yevusi. Okay. And it was called Shalem. And Shalem is a king of peace, or a place of peace. Okay. And this king brought out bread and wine. I asked myself the question, why did he bring out bread and wine? I'll answer that in just a moment. And he was a Kohen. He was a priest. He was a priest. So he was a king and he was a priest. You've heard about him before in the New Testament. And they reference this in particular scripture. Okay. So he's a priest king, but my king is righteous and he's a priest. I asked myself, well, why the bread and wine? Is the bread a body? Huh? And is the wine the blood? Did he bring blood and body for him to drink? Like the New Testament talks about? This is my body. This is the bread of my body. Take it, eat it. This is the wine for the blood that was shed for you. Drink it, drink all of it. No, it wasn't for that. The bread, I want to ask you a question. Why do you think he brought out bread? And what does bread mean? And why is bread given? When it's huh?
It could mean abundance
Yeah, it means abundance. Absolutely. I
And-
like that idea. Okay.
and have relationship.
Okay, there it is. A relationship over a nice meal. Anyone else?
The bread was always given to the priest.
Bread was always given to a priest. Yes. Praise Yah. All right. Bread also too represents what I would thought the idea to sustain, because you're only sustained by bread. Bread sustains you even after a battle. Okay. So to sustain one, to fill one, and also what they would call to satisfy. Okay. So satisfy, because when you're sustained, you're satisfied. Okay. Wine. What does wine represent?
Joy.
Thank you. Wine is joy. Wine and joy brings happiness. And it brings laughter to what? To the what?
To the heart.
To the heart, to the soul. You understand? That's what it does. It brings joy and laughter and happiness. See? So this is indicative of what the Creator wanted to show and give to him. A priest is one who's supposed to show you things. They're supposed to teach you. So these elements that he brought to him wasn't sacraments of a body and blood and sacrifice. They don't represent that. It represents abundance. It represents a relationship. You know, it's like we're having a meal together. We're celebrating. That's what this is about. It's about a celebration. And one can only do that and sustain themselves when they're fully satisfied. And that's what a blessing is. That's why he blessed him with these words. He says, blessed. And here, what I want you to understand is that this English word blessed is not what it really is. It's really what they call a participle. And a participle is an ing. So blessing will always be to Avraham by the Most High, Elyon. He's the maker of the heaven and the earth, and blessing. That is not a blessed like in past tense. It's a blessing, continual blessing to Elyon. So as you stated, Samiyah, this is about a relationship. This is like me and you coming together and we share and we have a friendship. When it talks about Abraham was Yahweh's friend, this is the beginning of that. Like, hey, let's friends sit down and they eat together, okay? And they do things for each other. So we see this relationship. And again, it's how he responded that allowed him to have this moment. It was because of his awareness, it was because of his preparation. It was because of his way on how he handled things that allowed him to get to the point where he was. Yah caused all this to happen. He caused him to be brought down to Mitzrayim. He caused the famine. He caused the war. He caused it all so he can put Avraham in a position to teach him to learn how to walk before Yahweh. You understand? So he did these things for him. Okay. And it said that blessing be to Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you. And Abraham gave a tenth of everything. He gave a tithe to him of everything that he possessed. And that includes everything. That includes people. Okay. So if there was servants, he gave them that. If it was food, he gave them that. If it was gold, he gave them of everything. Because when we're in a relationship with Yah, we're not talking about, listen to what he's going to tell us, that the tenth that we get to Yah is out of the rekush. The eth rekush, remember the eth rekush? That's the possessions. I'm pointing you to the possessions. I'm letting you know that you and I have a relationship and that is a give and take. You know, you hand me bread and wine. That means just as much to me as the tenth that I gave to you. It doesn't matter. because everything I have in possession is because of the life's work that I've done that you've enabled me to do. That's why I'm not tripping with load. Load, you go where you got to go, right? I got stuff. You go to the left, I'll go to the right. A reasonable man, a man who's amicable, one who's friendly. You understand? And also, too, what we understand is that this Melchizedek was an order. Melchizedek is only mentioned twice in the Hebrew scriptures. And the New Testament said he liveth forever. He lives forever. He never died. He don't got a mother. He don't got a father. All that is inserted. It's all a supposition. It's not true. You can't add things to the text. How do they know he never have a mother and a father? It never said that. Is a king. He showed up, and he showed up with physical bread and physical wine that have physical representations that mean things, that bring about something for us, for the body and the soul. You can't separate them. So here in Psalms 110, Yahweh has sworn it to David. He will never be sorry. You are a Kohen forever, to be of the order of Melchizedek, of my king of righteousness. So I'm introducing you to an order. The order is that you're not only going to be a king to me, David, but you're also going to be a Kohen to me. And I'm not talking about a Kohen from the family of Levi. I'm talking about a special order of a Kohen. I have a special order for you. He sworn it to David. You, David, one of your descendants will be this Melchizedek from that order, not to be Melchizedek, but to be of that order. Yah has an order of another priesthood. That's why he introduces it to us in our chapter that we have in chapter number 14. At the appropriate time, he says, Supreme Master, at your right hand will shatter the kings on the day of his anger. He will pass judgment among the nations, filling it with dead bodies, just like Melchizedek showed up after the slaughter of Avraham. He's telling one of David's descendants that you will be there when I judge them. I'm going to put dead bodies all over the place. And he said, I'm going to shatter their heads throughout an extensive territory when I judge the nations. See? So the idea of this order is something that Yah has done. Well, David, can you please prove that? That's a very, interesting statement. There's a priesthood that we find in the book of Ezekiel, where he says all the people in the land are to present this offering to the prince in Israel. Okay. The prince's obligation will be to present. This is what the prince is going to do. He is going to present offerings, drink offerings on the feast, Rosh Chodesh, and Shabbat, for people to say that Yah's laws are done away with or not. And then he says, not only is he going to present these offerings on these designated and at all designated times, as if he's like the high priest. And he says, at all the designated times of the house of Israel. So that's all the Moedims, that's all the appointments, that's Pesach, that's the coat, that's all these different things. Okay. So Rosh Chodesh is an appointed time. Shabbat is an appointed time. It's part of the feast. It's a feast. Okay. And listen, he's also going to prepare sin offerings. I thought that Christ died on the cross and there's no more offerings. I thought there was no more atonement for sin. He's going to offer grain offerings. From where? From the land. Burnt offerings. From where? The animals. Peace offerings. From where? The animals. To make what? Atonement. I thought it was done once and done. So my listeners, who I talk to all the time, you Hebraians out there, they're listening to my channel, understand there will be offerings made for sin offerings. And there will be atonement for the house of Israel. Because there's a rulership. Yah has set up a rulership. Here's what Yahweh says. If I have not established my covenant with the day and the night and fixed the laws for the sky and the earth, then I will also reject the descendants, plural, of Yaakov and my servant David. Not choosing from his descendants, plural, people to rule over the descendants of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. I will cause their captives to come back and I will show them compassion. What is it that our people don't understand that he said, I'm going to choose descendants from David's family to rule over this man's family and this man's families forever? Well, how many descendants? Because maybe Christ was the last one, David. Maybe you got it twisted. Maybe you got it wrong. No, I don't. They're innumerable. Who's innumerable? The descendants of Avraham and the descendants of David and the descendants of the Lawim. Listen to what Yahweh says. If you can break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that daytime and nighttime no longer come when they're supposed to, two separate times, then my covenant with my servant David can also be broken, so that he will not have a descendant to reign from his throne, or a Leviim who are Kohanim to minister to me. See, David is going to have a descendant. Remember, they're innumerable. So to the degree that the armies of the heaven are past counting, in context, descendants are past counting, the stars are past counting, the galaxy is past counting, the sand of the sea is past measuring. I will increase the descendants of my servant David. Not one descendant. You can't count how many descendants. And if you look at the chart that David had, he only had like 22 descendants who reigned, or maybe 20 descendants who reigned on the throne for him. That's it. Is it limited to 20? Or are we looking forward to something like we look forward to the sky and the moon and the stars? Not only with David, but also too with the Leviim. There will always be someone. I put in here something about Abraham's wealth. Yah has become the wealth of Abraham. The same event where the kings came, or the Melech of Zedek, the Melchizedek came and spoke to him. There was other kings who came. The king of Sodom also came after the king of Melchizedek blessed Abraham, and the king of Sodom said this to Abraham: give me the people, okay? And keep the goods, keep the rakush for yourself. But Abraham answered the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to Yahweh, Elyon, maker of the heaven and the earth, that I would not take so much as a thread or a sandal thong of anything, and it is yours. So that so that you won't be able to say, I made Abraham rich. This is another characteristic or trait of our Father that you need to understand. Before he went into that war, he prayed according to this, and he lifted his hand to Yahweh. Okay. And it says that he lifted up his hand, but it's the way that he lifted up his hand. In the Hebrew, you would think from this English that he lifted up his hand and he made the oath. It says that he was caused to lift up his hand. Yahweh caused him to lift his hand in the oath to Yahweh, the maker of heaven and earth. And then by him doing this, he was caused to do this. This was something not from within him, because if he did it, he would have hith pael. He would have caused himself to lift his hand up and make an oath to Yah. It didn't happen that way. He was caused to lift his hand up to make this oath. And he made this oath to Yah because Yah caused him to do it, because Yahweh doesn't want anybody to say that they made Abraham rich. Yahweh doesn't want anybody to say that I've made the descendants of Abraham rich. If he's talking to Abraham, he's talking to you. I'm not going to give you reparations so they can say that they made you rich. I'm not going to let anybody take credit for what I got to do for you, because I'm your Elohim. I need you to understand that, okay? That your wealth comes from me. It comes from the creator of the heavens and the earth. It doesn't come from anyone else, because you're set apart from me. You're special. I'm going to continue to tell you that. So let's go to our second half. And I'm going to kind of speed it up a little bit more for us, so I won't keep you too long. Right now, we're going to talk about imperatives. In the Hebrew, imperatives are commands. They're authoritative commands, okay? Within the Torah, or excuse me, within the writings, because it wasn't the Torah, it was within the writings of the Creator in the book of Bereshith, Yahweh has expressly given commands. And these commands were not only given by Yah, they were given by Paro, which is Pharaoh. They were given by Avram. They were given by Sarai. She even gave commands. And then we also have some other ones where the king that we just talked about, Saddam, he gave a command. So there's different commands. There were totally 17 of them. And a lot of times we don't think that the commands of the Creator are relevant, okay? But they are. What's relevant about this is that the Creator told Abraham from the beginning, okay? And this was a command. They're relevant. He says, hey, lech lecha, get yourself up and get out of your country, away from your kinsmen, meaning your family, and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. Meaning I'm going to cause you to see this land. When I says I will show you, it's not I will cause it to be shown to lecha, to you. I will make of you to you a great nation, lecha, a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse anyone who curses you, and by you all the families of the earth will be blessed. Here again, it's not a blessed ed, okay? It's a continual of a blessing. All right. And what he's talking about is not that you're going to be the one who's going to be bowing the knee to the nations. In context, in terms of the Hebrew language, it talks about how they're going to be coming to bend the knee to you, because you're the one who's going to provide them with the actual blessing. You're going to provide them with the teaching. You're going to provide them with the know-how. Okay, because of who you are, you're going to be a father to many nations. Okay, and so there's some actionable things here in the Torah, in the writings that we need to understand. Here are some of the commands that were given. All right. So I'm going to quickly go over them right quick so you can say, I can put this in my life. First and foremost, in chapter number 13, after Lot had left, Yah told Avraham to Nasa, I need you to lift up, and I need you to open your eyes to see, and I need you to rise, lift yourself up, and I want you to go do something. I want you to hith halak. That hith is a reflexive. I need you to walk yourself through the land, and I want you to walk the width of it, and I want you to walk the length of it. So what you and I need to understand from this command itself is to let you know that there's work that you and I will have to do. There's work that has to be done. Commands are given for you to do work. This hith halek right here is not the same one that's down here. I got two of them here. I'm going to explain to you right now. This one is literally physically, okay, with a walking, okay. I need you to go to the width, and I need you to go to the length. This is what I need you to do, okay? Literally. So you're going to always be walking. This is part of what it is, okay? This one down here, he told him to hit the lake before Yahweh's face. He told me to walk before me and be upright, okay? And to exist yourself, Tamim. I need you to be perfect. Okay, I need you to be complete before me. So this one here, down here, deals with your life. Okay, so you got the hith halak, which talks about physically walking. You got the hith halak, which talks about walking yourself and walking in your life, and the manner and how you live your life. Okay, so those are the difference between the two. Okay, so this one has to do with land, and this one has to do the manner of life that you live. So we can see that they're interchangeable. Right? So again, it's letting us know wherever you walk, whether you're physically walking or you're just walking through life and you're lech lecha, Yah's asking his servant to be this way. And because he's talking to Avraham, it's the same request as being given to the descendants of Avraham. Okay. Yah did give him a command to tell him to gaze up at the stars. Often you and I don't do this. We don't nabat, we don't gaze. Okay. Why would Yah ask us to gaze at the stars? Somebody tell me. Why does Yah want you to look at the stars?
Our numbers.
You need to remember your numbers. Thank you, Aki. You need to remember your numbers. You need to remember you talking about your descendants, but also too, he attaches, why is my pen not doing that? He's attaching our numbers to what? He's attaching our numbers to the stars. Okay, and the multiplicity of them. He's attaching, when you gaze up in the heavens, you're looking at a covenant, like we just saw it over in Jeremiah. Yah says, my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night. You're also looking at the moon. So you see Rosh Kodesh, you see the moon, which he says, if you get rid of the moon, then you get rid of the descendants, you get rid of the promise I made. So we have a whole bunch of signs that Yah has given us. He wants us to look up at the stars and understand that your numbers are directly connected. The numbers of David's descendants are connected to the stars. So you off the top, when someone says in Corinthians that, it's talking about one seed versus many, then that's a lie. Yah has established the heavens for you and I to always remember how many people it's going to be. This is the reason why he told us never to count. Because he said you can't count the stars. Okay. Also, to the idea of cock. Remember, I told you there's mentioned a lot. Take this, take that. They took this, they took that. Kakwa, meaning take this from here, take that. So remember, life in this walk is going to be a give and take. Okay. Bo, what do we know about this? Well, this is something that Sarai. Okay. Sarai had brought this out. Matter of fact, here, one of the quacks that was there is Avraham told Sarai when she came and complained to him and said, this woman has turned on me. She's despised me now. Now she's looking at me crazy now that she's conceived a child. Well, he says, well, take her. Go take her and go and do what you need to do. Do what you need to do with her. But also, too, didn't she tell him to take? Didn't she say, go take my handmaid, go take my servant girl to be your wife? Yeah. So it's all in there. Okay. So what we have here is go do what you need to do. And so the character of Hagar going to her character. Now, what does she do? When she got into a conflict, what did she do? You read your Torah portion, right? What did she do? When Sarah started mistreating her, what did she do?
He ran away.
She ran away. She fled. And that was and guess what her name means? Run away. That's what her character is. You and I we have an opportunity to learn from Hagar. As a servant, all because we're not a woman, all because we're not in that capacity, all because we're not an Egyptian, doesn't mean that you and I should not pick up on the principles. The principles is that she fled. She fled away from her mistress. She fled away from her master like we did, because we didn't like what was happening. Reason why Sarai did what she did to her was simply because the woman had did that to her. And so when this happened, a Malak gave a command from Yahweh. And the Malak told her to do something. He told her, Shubiel. That means you need to return to. I need you to return to what? Your mistress. I need you to return to your master. And guess what? And when you get to your master, I need you to humble yourself. That's what you and I are supposed to learn. Because a Malak is a messenger. The messenger sent a message to us through her, through the story of her life. He's telling us to Shubiel. You need to Shubiel, return to your master. That's what you need to do. And when you do this, you need to return in a sense of humility. And the reason why Sarah treated her that way, because she wasn't humble. She was very what? She became very prideful. She got exalted. So her punishment was measure for measure. Oh, you exalt yourself? Then since you exalted yourself, I'm going to humble you. What did the Creator tell us? You've exalted yourself above my words and my command. I'm going to humble you. So Shuviel, this is why I said that it's relative, is relevant, excuse me. Okay. And it is relative as well. Okay. And also too, when he told her that, as you notice, my next word is hithani. When you see these words hith all the time, it means a reflexive action. It means it's something that you need to do. This is what I need you to do. You can do this. So when the Malak told her this, after he said Shubiel, he said to her, hithani, humble yourself. Is that relevant to our day to day? It is. What else did he say? Okay. That's what he said, excuse me. Now, that's the command of the Malak. We got a command here from Yah himself to our father. He told our father to do something. Again, going back what he said, he told him to hithalak, walk before me in an upright manner and be perfect. You can be perfect and you can be tamim. And then what the last but least thing that he said to him in his command, in this imperative, was that I need you to weye. You need to exist yourself, meaning you need to exist as. You got to cause yourself to exist. You need to exist as what I told you. This is what it is. It won't be any changing. You're going to be what I called you to be. If I called you to be the father of many nations, that's what you're going to be. If I called you to be the mother of nations and kings are going to come through, that's what's going to happen. And I'm going to make it, I'm going to cause it. Here's something causative that the Most High said. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you. This is in chapter number 17 that he spoke to our father. He said, generation after generation. So this is always going to be, it's not with one person, it's with descendants, okay? As an everlasting covenant, meaning forever, to be Elohim for you and your descendants after you. Now to be for, you can see right there, when you see this word for, that's a lamed and ka right here. So again, you will find that word in Hebrew, lekha. So you can see lekha is all through. It's even in chapter number 17. It's in all chapters you will find this word lekha. Forgive this thing for keep going, okay? So what is he talking about, this covenant? This covenant that he's talking about is the one of circumcision. Circumcision is very important. Elohim said to Avraham, as for you, you are to keep, meaning guard my covenant, you and your descendants after you. Akareka, after you. They're going to be after you generation after generation. Here's my covenant, which you are to guard, not keep, guard between me and you, along with your descendants after you, okay? Every male among you is to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in your flesh or your foreskin. This will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. Just like Yah gave a sign for the nations that, hey, I'm not going to destroy you because I'm going to give you a rainbow. So Yah attaches a sign to the covenant, okay? So the sign of this covenant between me and you is going to be circumcision, all right? But the enemy has said something I want to make you aware of. We have enemies. Listen to the enemy that's found in 1 Corinthians chapter number 7, verse 17, which is the opposite of chapter number 17, verse 7. You can always remember it that way. 7:17 versus 17:7. He says, only let each person live the life the Lord has assigned him and live it in the condition that he was in when theos, they have the word theos, which that's in the New Testament, is for God. Then he used Yahweh's name. I'm using the name of their God. So you can know that this is not your Elohim, okay? So I want you to live in a condition that he was when Theos called him. This is the rule. I'm laying down a rule in all congregations. That's what the writer, which is Paul, which is a man who's never been married, never had any children. We don't know anything about his family. We don't know nothing about his generations. We know nothing about his father. We know nothing about the Toledoth. We know nothing about him, and neither does he have any family after that. So he's not concerned with circumcision, okay? So was somebody already circumcised when he was called? Then he should not try to remove the marks of his circumcision. Was someone uncircumcised when he was called? He shouldn't undergo a Brit Milah, which is circumcision. Being uncircumcised means nothing. That's the rule that he laid down. Being uncircumcised means nothing. What does mean something is keeping Theos's commandments. Each person should remain in the condition he was when he was called. So for the Christians, it's about what condition you were called in, but there's a cost. According to what our Elohim said, he said anybody, any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people, meaning that soul, will be cut off from his people because he has broken my covenant. That word broken there means that he has caused my covenant to be smashed, to be trodden down like as if you would with an animal, like a ox walking on some grain and busting it open, okay? So this is what he's talking about. There's a cost, there's an expense for not doing this, right? Because that is the sign between Yah and his people, all right? A lot of times the question asks a woman said, well, what does that have to do with me? What is that? Am I out of the covenant? I don't have genitalia that would allow me to have the foreskin of my private to be, trimmed and cut. So how does that happen for me? Do I do like the Africans and circumcise the women? Or what do I do? Well, according to Yahweh's order, the man that you marry should be circumcised. You would then become underneath the umbrella of his authority, which brings you into the covenant. The moment he joins forces with your body and he goes inside of your body, you guys have joined and made a covenant together. That's how you're joined with him, okay? Also too, a daughter who is not joined into a man, and she has not, she's not joined to a man, but she's still living under the home of her father. If her father is circumcised, she's part of that covenant because she's still under her father's authority. That's why it's important for a father to pick the right man for his daughter, because he has to make sure that that man is circumcised, and it has to be given and told to the woman who is marrying your son that all my sons will be circumcised. That's why Yah has designed it for his people. That's the reason why, because he doesn't want this covenant to be broken. But a lot of us, you guys remember the Flintstones? You guys remember the Flintstones, the cartoon?
Yes.
Well, there's some Flintstones inside of the Torah, or excuse me, inside of the scrolls. I don't know if you know about, I'm going to share the Flintstones with you. In chapter number 4 of Shemot, the Flintstones are here. It says, at the lodging place on the way, Yahweh met Moshe and would have killed him had not Zipporah had taken a flintstone and cut off the foreskin of her son. She threw it at his feet, saying, what a bloody bridegroom you are for me. But then Elohim met Moshe. Okay, he let Moshe be. She added a bloody bridegroom because of the circumcision. The reason why she was tripping is simply because she didn't understand it. Okay. But the point is, because of the circumcision, Yah was going to kill Moshe. How important is the circumcision? You can't go do the work that Yah wants you to do if you're not circumcised. You understand? You're not even allowed to come into any celebration of Israel, especially Pesach. You can't participate. You can't do it. There are some exclusions that I want to tell you about circumcision. Found in the book of Ezekiel, write this down for those who think that, the New Testament is correct. This is wrong. Yahweh said to me, human being, pay attention and see with your eyes physically and hear with your ears physically everything I tell you about all the regulations, which are the Kokim of Yahweh's house, and about all of its Torah. Pay attention to who can enter the house and who must be excluded from the sanctuary. This is after the sanctuary in Yahweh's house had been completely burned down. So he's talking about a future. Okay. He's letting us know who's going to be excluded. Who's going to be excluded to the foreigners. Okay. You are to tell the rebels, the house of Israel, that this is what the supreme master Yahweh says. House of Israel, enough of all your disgusting practices. You brought foreigners, uncircumcised in both heart and flesh, to be in my sanctuary and profane it. Yes, my house. When you offered my food, the fat and the blood, thus, in addition to all your disgusting practices, they broke my covenant. So we see here that circumcision is both in what? Mind and in flesh. You can't have one without the other, like the questionable man called Shaul the tent maker. One minute he's a tent maker, the next minute he's a Pharisee, the next minute he's an apostle. Okay, doesn't have no family, no kids or anything. No, you don't know nothing about this man. Okay, he tells them that it doesn't matter, right? Yah tells us that it does matter. I want mind and body. You can't have it. Instead of taking care of my holy things yourselves, you have put these people in charge of my sanctuary. Here is what the supreme master says: no foreigner is uncircumcised in both heart, which is mind, and flesh, is to enter my sanctuary. No foreigner living among the people of Israel. They can't come in. Okay. They're excluded. They're excluded. Okay. They have no right to come up to Yah, period. Okay. So none of these things. Let's get some confirmation on that. Yah tells us in the book of YHWH, he says this prophetically: awake, awake, Zion, clothe yourself with your strength, dress in a splendid garments, Yerushalayim, the set apart city, for the uncircumcised and the unclean will enter you no more. That's both in body and mind. So then you have to ask yourself the question, is that place really Yerushalayim? And if they are in there, right, and they're unclean, then what is Yah going to do to that place? You understand? They can't enter the land. Anybody who's uncircumcised, when Yah takes us out of here, will not be going into the land. Just like Yehoshua had to circumcise the people before they went into the land. Matter of fact, according to our readings this week in our portion, when did Avraham, when he got this command, what did he do? How long did it take him to circumcise everybody in his house. How long did it take him?
The same day.
Same day. He was 99 years old. No excuse. It's the covenant. But there's a delusion. Some people are deluded. Okay. And they will bring all your kinsmen out of the nations as an offering to Yahweh on horses and chariots and wagons and on mules and camels to my holy mountain Yerushalayim, says Yahweh. Just as the people of Israel themselves bring their offerings in a clean vessel to the house of Yahweh, I will take Kohanim and Leviim from them. Says Yahweh, I bring this out because there's people out here teaching that the people from these nations are going to bring the children of Israel back. And they actually believe that Yah's going to take priests and Leviim from the people, from the nations. There's a teaching going around saying he's going to take from the nations, Kohanim and Leviim. Yah just told us in Ezekiel, no foreigners ever to come into my house. Yah's told us that I don't care if they're both circumcised in man and body, they're not allowed. The only people that will ever come, according to Jeremiah, is the Leviim, who are Kohanim, and also to Dawid, to serve in Yahweh's tabernacle, or prince of Dawid. Okay, so that's a delusion. Yah's not bringing anybody else. Okay, Yisrael as a people For just as the new heavens and the new earth that I am making will continue in my presence, says Yahweh, so will your descendants as your name and your name continue. That's who's going to continue before Yahweh, is his descendants, the children of Israel. Dawid's descendants are going to, like, because we're connected to the stars. We're connected to the heavens. You understand? We're connected to the sand. We're connected to the dust. Everything that was said to us during this weekly portion, we found out that he says, your descendants are going to be like the sand. Your descendants are going to be like the dust of the earth, if you can count it, in chapter number 13. Your descendants are going to be like the stars, if you can count them, on chapter number 15. Go up and look. Circumcision is a big deal. You and I are not circumcised in mind. Yahweh, your Elohim, will bring you, in Deuteronomy chapter number 30, back into the land of your ancestors. Okay, excuse me, back into the land your ancestors possessed, and you will possess it. He will make you prosper there, and you will become even more numerous than your ancestors. Then Yahweh, your Elohim, will circumcise your hearts. Then, operative word. Then Yahweh will circumcise your hearts. When what? When I bring you back. When I bring you back into the land, that's when I'm going to circumcise you. Okay. That's when I'm going to get rid of some things. Okay. And not only not your heart, but the heart of your children, so that you will love me. Love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your being, and thus you will live. So what we find right now is that we don't love Yahweh. Not with everything. Not with everything. Yeah, we have a desire, but we don't know what this love is. But so he's letting us know through circumcision, I'll do it in your body, which is a cutting away of that which makes you unclean. And it also is a covenant. It's a sign to tell you that you're in a relationship with me. But the ultimate goal is to do both body and mind, like I've been telling you. Because this has to do with the love that you have for me, with all of you. That's what I want. I want all of you. I don't want some of you. I want all of you. And right now, you can't give it to me all. You know why? Because your mother can die and they'll put her in the freezer for 2 weeks. So now you've been unclean for that time. And then when you saw her again, you became unclean again. You can't love me the way I'm asking you to love me, because you don't have an offering to bring to me. You can't love me the way that I want you to love me, because I haven't set any authority over you. You can't love me because you don't have the priesthood and the offerings that and the contributions that I want. You can't love me the way that I'm looking for you to love me, because you're not in my presence celebrating my festivals like I want you to, because you have nothing in your hands. Okay. You can't love me because you're not the chief of the nations. You can't love me and appreciate me until you see what I'm going to do for you. But let's hear what the enemy has to say. The same enemy that wrote to you and told you the circumcision means nothing is the same enemy that's telling you this. It says, for in him, meaning Yeshua, bodily lives the fullness of all that Theos is. And it is in union with him. See, because this is about union, that you have been made full. He is the head of every rule and authority. Also, it is in union with him that you were circumcised. Okay. And the circumcision that you have from him, because you're in union with him, look at the words. That's why I told you it's going to take a little bit more time today. You're in union with him. This Yeshua character, the New Testament, you're in union with Theos. Okay. When you're in union with him, because your circumcision is not one of the body, your circumcision is not the circumcision that was done with a human hand. Okay. So the one that Avraham did, that he did on the same day, the one that they claim that they're trusting in the faith that Avraham had, they go to him and say, he had so much faith, he believed God. And yeah, he believed him so much that he circumcised on the day that he told him. He believed that it was a sign, but they're not telling you that now. Now, the very act that he told Avraham is saying that that's not the one that he wants, but is accomplished by the stripping away of the old nature's control over the body. So now he's saying that if you join up with Theos and you go in union with Yahushua or Yeshua or YHWH, then this circumcision is going to be one that he's going to strip away your old nature and his control over you. So you're not going to have a desire anymore to look at a woman anymore. Not once you go in with Yeshua. You're not going to desire to have a family. You'll be like Paul. Never again to want to be with a woman. You go make a woman do nothing but go around and serve the men and do a whole bunch of hospitality things instead of her being at home with her husband. She's going to be at the church. You understand? You're not going to have the desire to eat certain foods. You know, you can't have a hamburger and French fries because that's your old nature. You see? But if you think about your old nature's control, what is your old nature really about? Your old nature is to increase. And again, I keep going back to it because it's important. It has to do with sexual behavior. That's why they tell your old nature. If you notice, they keep talking about that which is of the flesh. You don't want to be of the flesh anymore. You don't want to have a desire because you can't control it. They tell you have no control. So that's why you need to be in union with him so he can strip away the old nature's control. So what is this nature that had this over your body? Your eyes, you're never going to look at a woman again. You're never going to look at something again. Yah's ways are what's going to control us. Okay. It's never really been put into our hands in that sense. Yah controls us by what he says, and it's by the things that you and I, hithpael, that we'll walk before him in uprightness. And you and I, he commands us to be perfect. That was to exist as perfect, but you and I got to do our part. If we do our part, then he do his part. Avraham did not believe Elohim. He did not. He was caused to believe in Yahweh, and Yahweh considered him righteous. I've been over this. Okay. So this is what the enemy wants you to think, that if you go and be in union with this Messiah and everything, then your circumcision is going to be different. But let me tell you what that circumcision is, so you can understand that they told you that it's a spiritual circumcision, but you got to do something physically. He says in this circumcision, same book, next verse says this, and you need to pay careful attention. He says in this circumcision done by the Messiah. So now the Messiah is doing it. Remember, it's not done with human hands. It's done by the Messiah. You were buried along with him, being immersed. So their circumcision comes by immersion. That's what puts you in union with him. So you still have to do something physically, right? But remember, they're against the physical. But they're telling you, if you don't do this physically, if you don't do this immersion, then you're not joined with him, not in union. You need to physically do this. So instead of you physically circumcising yourself, because you got to do your part, we don't want you to do that. We want you to physically do something else. So instead of getting trimmed, you're going to go ahead now, and we're going to include the women as well. You guys get to be circumcised now too, because you get to go jump in the water now. Okay. Then once you do that, you're going to also be raised up along with him by Theos. Not Yahweh. They could have put Yahweh's name here. They didn't. They put Theos because that's the God of the Greeks, if you didn't know that by now. The faithfulness that worked when he raised up Yeshua from the dead. You see, you were dead because of your sins. That is because of your foreskin of your old nature. That's why we're asking you to be immersed into him and to join union, because as soon as you do this, he's going to take the foreskin off of your old nature. Really? I want to take the foreskin off your old nature. But Theos made you alive when you were with the Messiah by forgiving all your sins, if you get immersed. So circumcision for them is directly connected to baptism, immersion. I didn't even know that. All the time I was a Christian, I didn't know this. I didn't search this out. I did not know this, period. And that's what I'm saying to you. There's a lot of things that you and I don't know. So they're telling you to physically do immersion because then he's going to do a spiritual circumcision on you. But that physical immersion automatically puts you in union. So now that word union means that you're going to be joined. So this is how they get you to join with him, because if you join with him, then you'll join in his death by immersion. And you can find that as well in Romans chapter number, I think, 6. Okay. So these are the enemy's words, just to let you know. Okay. So their circumcision is different. But at any rate, the Creator is interested in giving you and I a change of heart. The change of heart for you and I is this. Yah tells you how he's going to change your heart. He says, I will. There's several things that Yah said he's going to will. I will. Yah's going to harvest you. He's going to sprinkle you. He's going to exchange you. He's going to cause you, and he's going to save you. Let's go over them right quick for the sake of time. Look at what he said, I will do. I will gather you from among the nations. Excuse me, look at me gather. I will take you from among the nations. I will gather you from all the countries and return you to your own soil. I'll do that for you. Still the same book. Then I will sprinkle you. Then, after I gather you, and after I take you, and after I return you, then, operative word, then I will sprinkle you. I'll sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your uncleanness and from all your idols. When? When I bring you back from the land, when I take you, when I gather you, and I'll return you. So right now, it makes sense now. Deuteronomy 30 tells us that we don't love him. With everything, we haven't been circumcised because we're still unclean. You understand? Here it is. I will exchange. He's going to give an exchange. I put this word here because I've been telling you all through the study today that there's a give and take in this walk with Yah. Okay. As long as you live, there's always going to be a give and there's always going to be a take. Even Job told us the story. Yahweh giveth and Yahweh taketh away. Blessed be the name of Yahweh. I will give you a new heart. This is in context. Then, after I clean you, then I'm going to give you a new heart. I'm going to give you a new mind. Not like Paul. Paul says, I'm going to immerse you. And then you're going to be, after you got immersed into Christ Jesus and Yeshua and Yehoshua, and I just use their names just for those who don't know who they are, Jebus and whoever, the Messiah, they said that right now that you and I could be clean and we could be washed and we'd be in union with him, and you and I would never have to worry about what Yah said. You can have that while you're in exile. It sounds like a good deal, doesn't it? And then you can also get rid of that nature that you have, the desire, the natural desire of you to increase and to multiply, the very thing that Yah put in your body. So I can multiply you because that's my intention. I'm going to keep telling you that that's the reason why we were made this way, so we could increase our numbers, so you could become the stars. You see, that's why it has to be governed. As we talked about last week, we talked about these people that you don't want supposed to be like. So Yah tells us like, hey, I got to do something for you. Okay. So look at everything that Yah wants to give you. Look at everything that he's going to do. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit inside of you, a give and a take. And I will take the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. I'm going to give you a mind. When it talks about a mind of flesh, meaning I'll make something palatable. I'm going to make something that could be, like clay, so I can write something in it. Because right now it's been very stony. It's been very hard and very difficult. There's been this idea of contention and conflict. So I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so there's that exchange that I'm going to do. I'm also going to cause. I will put my spirit inside you and cause you to live by my laws. Now, when you share this information with a Hebristian, And you ask them, do you have Yah's spirit? They tell you, yes, I do. Then you ask them, why don't you keep his laws? I do, I keep his laws. Well, why can't you tell me what the Moedims are? Why can't you tell me what the Kukims are? Why can't you tell me what the Shabbats are? Why can't you tell me what the diet is? Why are you saying that every day is alike? Why are you making provision? Why are you lifting your hand to cook, to drive, to buy, and to purchase on the day of Shabbat? See, I will put my spirit inside of you. Yah has told us that you and I are unclean. He told us I'm going to bring you out. He told us that I'm going to circumcise your hearts, and I will cause you to live by my kukim and respect my mishpatim and obey them when I bring you back to the land. So you can see there's a process, okay? I will save you. Now, after Yah tells us that he's going to save us, he says, you will live in the land that I gave to your ancestors. And he's talking about Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. You will be my people, and I will be your Elohim. Remember, he told us in our Torah, in our writings this week, in our portion this week, that Yah told us that he told our father that I will be your Elohim. I will save you from all your uncleanness. Okay, all your uncleanliness. I'm going to save you from it. So what is our uncleanliness? It's the idols. It's the names that we've spoken. It's the places that you and I have been. It's the dead bodies that you and I have touched that we've never been clean from. It's for me burying my mother 3 years ago, and I touched her body and never went through the purification problem. Well, that's the law. That's the flesh. That's not of the spirit. No, Yah tells us that even the priest has to wash his body before he comes and make an offering to me. This is his way. I will summon the grain and increase it. Oh, what happened? Sorry, you guys, something happened. I will summon the grain and increase it. So you can see Yah is about increasing and not send famine against you. I will multiply. Have you seen all these I wills? You see this? I will, I will, I will. I will summon the grain and increase it and not send famine. I will multiply the yield of the fruit from the trees and increase the production in the fields. It's always about increase. It's always about increasing fruit. It's always increasing bodies. It's always increasing animals. It's always increase. This is what Yah wants to do. He doesn't want famine against us. I want to increase it. I want to increase the grain. Why? Because you're going to bring me the grain. I want to increase the fruits. Why? Because you're going to get the fruits and give it to me until give me the best of it, and then you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to increase it. I'm going to increase the production in the fields so you can always have something to eat, so that you will never again suffer the reproach of the famine among the nations. You will never go hungry again. Your store closed today, you're done. You're going hungry. But when you come home to the land that I gave to your ancestors, I'm going to be your Elohim. And that's when you'll know. And I'm going to save you from these places. You guys think everything is clean. You think everything is copacetic. Ain't everything clean? You guys are in filth. You understand? Because you're special to me. You've lost sight of how special you are to me. You've lost sight that you're my Rakusho. You're mine. My Rakushi, excuse me. Okay? But I want you to recall something. What I want you to recall is this, and you're going to recall it. You're going to remember, after I do all this for you, then you will remember. You're going to zakar your evil ways and your actions, that they were not good. As you look at yourselves, you will loathe yourselves for your guilt and your disgusting practices. Understand, says the Supreme Master, I am not doing this for your sake. Instead, be ashamed and be dismayed for your ways, O house of Israel. As someone asked a question, let me see what that question is. Trying to go on Zion, it took me trying to go onto Zion, rising to me. Okay, someone wrote something to her. Okay. I hope everyone's picking up on this when I'm laying down. I'm bringing this out to us simply because we need to understand that circumcision is a sign between us and Yah, and you're gonna have a whole bunch of enemies that tell you that you don't have to do it. And also too, they're telling you that you're already circumcised and you're not. They're already telling you you're clean and you're not. They're telling you you have a spirit and you don't. I mean, this is just crazy. This is crazy. But you and I have to understand these things. I am so proud of myself. I thought I was going to take longer. It's not. What's next? This is what's next. This is your weekly portion coming up next week. Go to Sheep chapter number 18 to chapter number 22, verse 24. And we're still going to be talking about the life of our father Avraham. And we're going to be talking about him for probably another historic portion after that. This man was He was a wonderful man. He was a noble man. He walked the walk. He was in pursuit of something. And you and I need to be that way. But we need to understand that it does come with imperatives. It does come with an awareness. It does come with the idea of being a master. It does come with responsibility. It does. I told Avraham, I need you to walk through this land. I need you to open your eyes and look to the left. The north, the south, the east, and the west. And he's living among people that he's a stranger. He's afraid of. He just killed a whole bunch of people. He's wondering, okay, what's next? Who's going to come against me? You see, he was prepared for that. But Yah was with him. He was walking with Yah. And you and I, at this moment, you and I are doing as our Father did. We're leaving our family. We're walking with him. And it's a command. You see? So that's what we're doing. And that's what we are. And there's going to be challenges. And there will be conflict. But it's how we deal with the conflict that I think that we need to take a look at. It's how our Father, let's emulate him. In the New Testament, in the Greek writings, Paul had told them, emulate me, be like me, don't get married. Don't get circumcised. Everything's fine, everything's okay. If you abandon Yahweh's covenant, you're destroyed. You see, I don't know how they explain that off, but that's how they do it, I guess. Any contributions, any remarks? Any statements?
Shabbat Shalom, Akika David.
Yes, Claudia.
Yes, yeah. So that's a very interesting way of bringing out the teaching of circumcision. But what I really wanted to speak about or mention today was something that you said. You said that there is a teaching going on where it is said that Yahweh is going to take Gentiles to be Levites and priests, right? I think you said that, right? Now, is that coming from Isaiah 66?
Yes.
Somewhere between 20, 21 verses 20, 21?
Yes. That's
because when I first read this, it dawned on me, what is it saying? Is it really saying that? But of course, I had to read over and meditate and, of course, go back to the laws to understand exactly what, and of course, the covenants that he made with different tribes to really understand. When I read it and it says, and from them too, I shall take for priests and Levites, declares Yahweh. Now, can you explain to me with the Hebrew understanding, the them there? Because to me, I would think it's from whoever he's gathering from the 12 tribe, well, from he's Israel, that is, but not from the Gentiles. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that is my understanding. My understanding is exactly your understanding, because when you look at the and I'll share it with you right quick. And I see your hand, Akoti. I'm gonna answer you in just a moment. Just wanted to acknowledge you, let you know that I did see your hand. Quickly, we look at Isaiah and let's look at the context of it, right? Yeah. So it's found in chapter number 66. Okay. And it's right after, he says, I'm going to destroy. Okay. Yah's coming in fire in verse number 50. It says, look, Yah was coming in fire, and he says, I'm going to consecrate. Okay. Then he says this in context. Okay. He says, and let's just start here. Verse number 18, I know their deeds and their thoughts, right? And there's a time that's coming when I will gather together all the nations and the languages, and they will come and see my glory. Now he's talking about the nations, right? He says, and I will give them a sign, and I will send some of their survivors to the nations of Tarshish, Pul, Lud, okay, tell them they're archers, Tuval, and Greece. These are the European islands in the distant coast where they have neither heard of my fame nor have seen my glory. They will proclaim my glory in these nations. Okay. Now listen, the glory if you notice, there is and I'm going to expand it right here. Okay, listen to this. This right here, this punctuation that's being used right here. Oh, I put it in white. Forgive me. This punctuation mark here that's being used, a semicolon right there.
Mhm.
That right there says, I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain my glory. Okay? Because he said they ain't seen it. They will proclaim my glory in these nations. So how are they going to explain this? Since they didn't see it, how are they going to explain it? Right? So now they're going to proclaim it. So now that means they're going to explain it. So he tells us how they're going to explain it. This is how they're going to explain it. They will bring your relatives, all your family out of all the nations as an offering to Yahweh. Okay? And they're going to bring these on horses and chariots and wagons and on mules and on camels to my holy mountain, Yerushalayim, says Yahweh. Okay? Just as the people, he's given an example, just as the people of Israel themselves bring their offerings in a clean vessel to the house of Yahweh. So when these survivors, when they bring your family members to me, it's going to be just like when Israel was bringing an offering to me. Okay? The ones that in context, remember, the kinsmen here is the offering. They are the ones that are on the chariots and wagons and mules and camels. Okay. And they're the ones, they are, and I'm going to bring, and look, I'm going to bring them just like, the house of Israel brings their offerings to me in a clean vessel. I will also take Kohanim and Leviim from them. Okay. So listen to this. What Yahweh says is that these individuals are going to, just like the people of Israel used to bring an offering to me, right? The nations are going to bring your family members like an offering to me. Okay? When they bring these offerings to me, which is your kinsmen, they're going to be on these vessels, like Israel will bring an offering to me in a vessel. So when these nations come, he says, when they bring you to me, I'm going to take from the people that they bring to me, Kohanim and Leviim from them. They're bringing the Kohanim and the Leviim from them. That's who he's saying. That's what he's saying to us. So the them there is not the people, not the nations. Okay. If you just look at his last phrase, just as the people of Israel themselves bring, well, they are bringing somebody. See, they bring, Israel brings. So what these people are going to bring is your family. What Israel was bringing me was offerings in a clean vessel. So the vessels that the nations are going to use are chariots and wagons and mules and camels. And they're going to come to my holy mountain, just like Israel bring their offering to me, which was in my holy mountain. I will also take Kohanim and Leviim from them. You see? So the offering is the Kohanim and the Leviim that these people are bringing to Yahweh in their vessels. He's not taking Kohanim and Leviim from the nations. He just said, these people that I just killed, these are survivors. Their job is to do a few things. Their job is to go ahead and proclaim my glory to these nations. The way that they're going to proclaim it is by bringing your family members out of all these places in all these vessels that they're going to use to bring them to me. And then once they bring them to me, it'd be just like Israel brought an offering to me. And so what they're bringing to me is they're bringing your relatives, and out from that offering that they're going to bring me will be Kohanim and Leviim out of that family, because Israel is scattered to all the four corners of the earth. And these are the places that these other people are there. So there's Kohanim and Leviim that are scattered in these places that he mentions right here. Okay. These nations will never be able to stand, according to Ezekiel, in Yahweh's temple. Never. Irregardless to them being circumcised or not. He says, you let foreigners in. And according to what he's talking about in Ezekiel, chapter number 45, I believe, or 42, he's letting us know that they'll never be able to stand in here, ever. He said, I don't care if they're circumcised or uncircumcised. They are not allowed. They're excluded from doing service. So and that's prophecy. I'm telling you that they'll never be able to come in here, ever. They might be able to make an offering. They can have a levaim. And then we learn from Jeremiah that he says that the levaim, I'll always have the levaim from, okay, here it is. I'll solve it. Let's put the final nail in the coffin. This should solve it for anybody who's questioning whether or not they will be able to come, because people are teaching that. They're like, oh no, he's going to take Kohanim and Leviim. So right now you have access. You can actually do this. You can actually stand right now and teach Yah's people, and you can claim that you're a priest and everything's all good because you're doing the work for God. You know, you're doing it for Yah. Here it is, chapter number 33. This is what the Creator says. He asked a question. The question he asks is this. He says in verse number 24, chapter number 3 to Jeremiah, listen what he says. He says, haven't you noticed that these people, what people? These people are saying that Yahweh has rejected these two families he chose. What two families did he choose? He chose David's family and he chose Aharon's family. He's not talking about a tribe right here, people. He's talking about a family. There's only two families that Yah chose. David's family, David, out of the tribe of Judah. He chose Aharon out of all of the Leviim. He chose them, those two families, Aharon and David. Those are the only two families he chose. He said, have you noticed that people are saying that Yah has rejected these people? They despise my people, no longer look at them as a nation. Why? Because there's no one sitting on David's throne and there's no one operating as a priest. So then he says this. We know that David's going to rule. Here it is. Nor will they ever be cut off from the Kohanim, who are Levaim, a man before me to offer burnt offerings, grain offerings, burnt offerings, grain offerings, and other sacrifices every day. Not the nations, only this family. And of course, he told us today that David will have the right to offer on appointed times. And that's it. It's just these two families. It's David's family and it's Aharon's family. These are the only two families. Levaim, he says, look, here's what Yahweh said. If you could break my covenant with the day and the night, and my covenant with the night, so the daytime and nighttime no longer come when they are, then my covenant with David, or my servant David, can also be broken, so that he will not have a descendant to reign from his throne, or the Levaim, who are Kohanim. That means just a priest. He's not breaking his covenant. If he did that, if he allowed the Goyim in there, he would break his covenant with the day and with the night, and he's not doing that. They will never serve in Yahweh's temple. Matter of fact, in the Torah, it tells us that no foreigner shall ever usurp any authority over you, period, in kingship or anything, okay? So that's the answer that I have for all of us, that they will never be able to come in that capacity. As a matter of fact, you should know this too, because what names are on the breastplate? Whose names were ever mentioned? Whose names are on the city, on the gates of the city? It's the names of Israel, and it's the name of Leviim. It's those names. Those are the ones, not these other people. He's just going to destroy the nations. He's not going to take and call a name from the nations. He said, I'm going to make a full end of the nations, but I won't make a full end of you. And then the survivors, they're going to go get you guys. And then when they come and bring you, it's just like them bringing an offering to me. And the people that they're going to offer me, out of those people that they offer me, there's Kohanim and Leviim. There's going to be priests in there, and there's going to be people who are supposed to be doing service to me. That's my understanding. Azanya.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom. So I just wanted to, as far as circumcision was concerned, and I was thinking about Isaiah 14 and verses 1 and 2, where it says like also their capacity of coming back in the land, which is servants, really. And it says that they will make them they will make them captives, that we will rule over our oppressors. Okay. And so it's like, so I assume that those that will be going back in the land with us, that they're going to be the ones that cleave to the house of Israel. They're going to be the ones that are not deniers, that they're going to be the ones that are like, yes, I understand that you guys are the 12 tribes scattered out into the earth, and they cling to us for salvation and are circumcised body and spirit, that those are going to be those ones, that salvation for the Gentiles is being a servant.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better.
Okay, all right. That's what I was checking for
like,
clarity.
Yeah, like you just said, it says, for Yahweh will have compassion on Yaakov, and he once again will choose Israel and settle them in their own land, while foreigners will join them. They will, and attaching themselves to the house of Yaakov. Peoples will take and escort them to their homeland. Just like he just told us in the latter part of Isaiah.
Yeah.
The house of Israel will possess them in the land of Yahweh, the land of Yahweh, as male and female slaves. Now, you and I would think, because our experience with slavery, we think, and a lot of our people on the streets are saying that we're going to do to them as they did to us, and that's not true.
Right.
What it is they're going to be joined with us, and they're going to be actively cooperating with us, and they're going to be servants as they would be servants to the Most High.
Right.
And they're going to say whatever needs to be done, because we're all worshiping the Most High. He says, and they will take their captors captive and rule over their oppressors, whoever's remaining, whoever's alive.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Yahweh will give you rest from your suffering. Like I told you, right now, while we're in the land that we're in right now, it's nothing but work and suffering and trouble from all the hard services been imposed on us. So that's the idea, but even something stronger, which is in the book of Isaiah, that I want to give and make sure everybody understands. It's in chapter number 56 that deals with this idea of a foreigner or a stranger. Okay. So here's what he says. Okay. Here's what Yahweh says: observe mishpat, which is judgment, and do what is right. Right. Do the zedequah, for my salvation is close to coming, my righteousness to being revealed. Happy is the person who does this. Anyone who grasps it firmly, who keeps Shabbat and does not profane it, and keeps himself from doing any evil. In the Hebrew, they use the word yad. When it says to keep himself from doing evil, means to put his hand to anything, to do any type of work. So this doesn't give a proper interpretation and translation of what's really being said. Yah says that I don't want you to put your hand to anything. If you put your hand to any type of thing, you're profaning the Shabbat. He says a foreigner joining Yahweh should not say, Yahweh will separate me from his people. A foreigner not supposed to say that. In what context? Like a eunuch should not say, I'm the only, a dried up tree, meaning you don't have no hope. Why? He mentions salvation, as Akoti just mentioned, to tell her the salvation for Israel and for us, our salvation is the salvation for the world. Here's what Yahweh says, okay? For as for eunuchs who keep my Shabbats, who choose what pleases me and hold fast to my covenant, they got a choice. They got to grasp and hold on to it and keep the Shabbat. In my house, within my walls, I will give them power and a name greater than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name to not be cut off. Meaning that, listen, the work and the service that you do for me will never be forgotten. Okay. Number 6, and a foreigner who joins themselves to Yahweh to serve Yahweh. You see, to love the name of Yahweh, to be his workers. All who keep Shabbat do not profane and hold fast to my covenant with your hand. I will bring them to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Yahweh Elohim says, who gathers Israel's exiles. There are others that all others I will gather besides those gathered already. So I'm going to gather these people, right? And so he gives us the understanding that a foreigner has the same rights and privileges when it comes to Yah. Some are going to be enslaved to us, the ones who you can't classify all foreigners as being slaves. You can't. There are some people that join themselves to Israel that has never done anything wrong to Israel. They're not going to be slaves. If you notice in context in 14, he says, those who have oppressed you, those are the ones you're going to oppress. Those are the ones who are going to be under your servitude. Those who've done you wrong, they're going to be underneath you. And you're not going to treat them like how you were treated. You're not going to do that to them. But they are your servants, and they will be given to you forever according to the Torah. Them and their children. You and I are Yahweh's slaves for how long? Somebody tell me.
Hallelujah. Forever. Hallelujah.
Forever.
Yes.
You see?
Hallelujah.
So, our lives are going to be lived the way that the Torah says. It's going to be done the same. The Torah that was given to our ancestors is going to be renewed, but this time it's not going to be written down in the form of a stone. He's going to actually write it in our minds. So you and I get a better and more comprehensive understanding of the Torah. We don't have that right now. Okay. So I tell people who are foreigners, join yourself to Israel. You go to chapter number 37, it talks about all those who are joined to them. There's people online right now that have joined themselves to Israel, that have done good by Israel. They won't be slaves. They won't be servants. They will be Yahweh's servants. They'll live in the land. Matter of fact, if you wanted me to show it to you, he says foreigners. Okay, you guys, okay, just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute so I can let everyone know, because it's still being recorded. I want to show you what the foreigner is going to get so we won't get it twisted. So you and I won't make the fatal mistake that the people in purple are making on the streets. They're not giving a comprehensive look into what's being said. In the book of Ezekiel, Yakeziel, because Yahweh loves the foreigner. I can show you that in the Torah. He loves the foreigner and he loves the stranger. He already told us that, and he wants us to love them. He says, if you mistreat them, I'm gonna have a problem with you. Okay. So let me tell you what Yah says about the foreigner when it comes to where's he say it, balance? Oh, here you go. Now this might make everybody angry, but that's okay. We're going to go to 4721 and write this down for your records. Okay. This is talking about in the future, how Yah is going to establish everything, the altar, the house, and all this, and they're measuring everything. They're giving out land. So we get to verse number 21, and it says this in 47:21. It says this is the territory you divide among the tribes of Israel. You are to divide it by lot as an inheritance, both to you and to who? Somebody say it.
The foreigners.
Foreigners are going to get territory. They're going to get inheritance. Living among you. I'm going to divide your land as an inheritance to both to you and to the foreigner. That to you right there is lakah. Okay. Living among you who give birth to children living among you. For you, they are to be no different from the native born among the people and the sons of Israel. They are to have an inheritance among you, the tribes of Israel. There you go. You are to give the foreigner an inheritance in the territory of the tribe in whom he is living. Somebody go say, I want to hang out with Yehuda. Then they go be there and they go have land. They go have families. They're going to increase their numbers because they're supposed to go and learn the Torah and to give praise and glory and proclamation of Yahweh's name to the nations. That's who's going to be coming up to Yerushalayim. It's the foreigner. How you like that? Beautiful, right?
Hallelujah.
As inheritance. The foreigner is loved by Yah. The foreigner will live among them. The foreigner will have land and they will do vegetation and farming just along with us. The foreigner will bring sacrifices to Yahweh's altar. The foreigner will live among us. But also, too, the ones who've done us wrong, there's a selective few that are coming out. They're going to be slaves for life. My message to the foreigner, you better join with Israel right now. And don't try to take the place of the Kohanim. If I got on our people about claiming that they're priests, how dare you say that you're one of Yah's out of his tribe? You're not part of that tribe. And if anybody, here's the answer, Claudia. Yah says, if anybody puts their hands to the work of the Kohanim and the Leviim who are not part of that family, I'm going to kill them. Numbers chapter number 2 and 3. I will kill them. Out of Israel, I'll put anybody in Israel to death if they claim to be a Kohanim. Even if you're a Leviim and you said you want to be a Kohanim and you're not from the family of Aaron like Korach and them, I'm going to set you on fire and I'm going to kill you. Because I chose that family. I didn't choose you. Now you're saying I made the wrong choice? If I chose David's family, you telling me I should have chose somebody else in the tribe of Yehuda? I already chose that family. You saying I made a mistake? I'll kill you for that. I'm the king. And I gave out the word. I said who it was. Just like I said, there's only 12 tribes of Israel. There's only going to be 12 tribes. Period. There's only going to be one family for the Leviim. Period. That's it. I'm not looking for nobody else. If you try to go outside of what I said, I'm going to kill you for that. If you said the foreigner can't come in the land and have an inheritance, I'm going to disinherit you. You want to find out what I'll do to people who mistreat a foreigner? Go and read Exodus chapter number 22, and I'll tell you what I'll do to a person who mistreats them. I'll destroy you. Because you were a foreigner. Have you forgot that you were a foreigner in the land of Mizraim? Have you forgot that you're a foreigner in the nations? Have you forgot? Do you know not that every one of the Torah and the laws and the kukim that I gave to you is for you to remember that you were a foreigner and not to treat a foreigner a certain way? Have you forgotten that? Your Torah is based on being a foreigner. Don't you get me started. I go a whole another hour. Anyway, shalom.